Hello everyone, welcome to our channel Gyan Sabha and you're watching Goripod Talks. So, a lot of you must be currently very busy with all the applications for masters and PhD programs across, all the different universities around the world. And I believe you must be having a lot of questions, regarding the SOP or the resume or scores and letters of recommendations. So, since the deadlines are also approaching, we decided why not to help you with answering some of your questions. And to do that, today I have with me Miss Shruti Gangopadhyay, who has done her bachelor's in mechanical engineering from VIT in India and is currently an incoming master student for the robotics program at Carnegie Mellon University. In addition to CMU, she also got admits in the robotics programs from University of Pennsylvania, University of Michigan Ann Arbor, and New York University, which are all like some of the best places when it comes to robotics education. So, without wasting any further time, let's start our conversation.
Hey Shruti, thank you so much for doing this episode with us today. And first of all, a very big congratulations for your MRSD admit. So, how are you feeling right now?
Oh, I feel really great. I mean, MRSD has always been my dream program. And so it really is like a dream come true. And thanks for having me, Gauri.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I think that dream come true part is like true for almost everybody. Like,
Yeah,
first of all, it's CMU and then MRSD is like one of the best courses out there. So,
yeah,
yeah, that's
exactly.
like really exciting. So, but like, I think this is one question I ask almost everybody. What made you excited about robotics at first place, and like, why were you interested in pursuing, higher education specifically in robotics?
So actually, I when I joined mechanical engineering, I was into machines and cars, and hence I decided to take up mechanical engineering. And my father actually introduced me to robotics, and he would often send me articles and videos, and just looking at the vast scope that robotics has and the crazy, insane things that people are doing, that was quite inspiring. And I joined a robotics based team in my college because of my interest, and that just propelled it further, and hence I decided to take it up for masters because I want to study more and delve deep into like the core and the crux of the field. And so I decided to pursue a masters in robotics.
That's pretty great. So, were there any specific universities you had in mind that like I have to and have to apply to these? Like, how did you ended up selecting the universities to apply to?
Okay, so to be honest, CMU was the only college like I had in mind throughout university. So I have a few seniors who were a part of the team that I just mentioned. So it's called RoverX, and we build like Mars rover prototypes in college and go for international competitions. So a couple of my seniors were a part of, are, and still are a part of MRSD. So hearing their experiences, and that's when like after they got in, I started looking up into the university, and looking at the kind of work happening there and the entire culture of entrepreneurship in robotics, which is what I want to pursue later too. So just all of that put together really interested me. And so CMU was the one college I always had in mind. But eventually, when I started looking into, doing masters, and that is when that was in my fourth year. So I mostly concentrated on the curriculum, um, on the type of work that is happening, like to see which parts of robotics different colleges are pursuing and working on. So the kind of work happening there and the curriculum that the college is providing, and also the kind of work I would say the alumni are doing after passing out of CMU or any other college. Sorry. So with CMU, what I noticed was the culture of entrepreneurship, like I said, and that is also strong, quite strong in University of Pennsylvania. So these two were my main like priority colleges, and so yeah, these were the three factors. that I mainly considered. So yeah.
That's pretty amazing. I think those are very important factors and all that you mentioned before
Yeah.
selecting a university. So, were CMU and UPenn the only universities, or did you apply to other options as well? Like, did you do that ambitious, safe categorization?
Okay, honestly, I did not do the categorization because more than my chances. So I like obviously that was the first thing that you would find on a Google search. So that was the approach I started taking. And I started out like I first started with a list of like 20 colleges, and I then segregated them into the categories. But then when I started looking into like the major factors that I mentioned, the curriculum, the kind of work and stuff, most of the colleges were not very interesting because I think it's more important to like find out your interest, because all of these colleges are going to be very good, like all your US universities that are offering the course of robotics, most of them are pretty good in what they're doing. So I think like rather than just seeing which colleges are good, I was more focused on seeing which colleges align with what I want to do, because I found that to be most important. So while I was doing that, I realized that the whole categorization just was out of the picture, and most of the colleges also were not too interesting to me. So I just decided that if I'm going to do it, and we all know that it's a lot of money and it's quite expensive. So I figured that if I am going to put in so much time and you're staying away from your family, like on the other corner of the world. So considering all the things that you're going, the effort and the financial component and all of that, I figured that rather than, estimating your chances, it's more important that you do something that you love and that benefits you later. So I just gave up on the entire categorization part, and the colleges remaining were mostly ambitious colleges, and so I finally ended up applying to Carnegie Mellon, the MRSD program, UPenn's Robo program, University of Michigan's Master in Robotics, and ETH Zurich's Master in Robotics, and KTH Royal Institute of Technology's, I think, Masters in Systems, Robotics and Control, something like that. I'm forgetting the name at the moment, and NYU's Mechatronics and Robotics course. So these were the programs I ended up applying to.
That's pretty good set of colleges. You're right, they're all ambitious. So
Yeah, exactly.
so where all did you then ended up getting the admits from?
So I got admits from CMU, UPenn, University of Michigan, NYU, and I got rejects from ETH Zurich and KTH Royal Institute of Technology.
Wow, that
Yeah.
that's pretty amazing. And I
Thank
can
you.
clearly see why you got so many admits. You have such an amazing profile. You also mentioned about the rover project, and I was also going through
Yeah.
your LinkedIn profile. So why
Yeah.
don't we get deeper into that part, and why don't you tell us more about what were all the key points in your profile, and how did you develop such a stellar profile, I would say.
Thank you so much. I still think it's not that great, because when I was going through the process of when I realized that I do want to pursue a master's in robotics, I had a lot in mind. I was like, okay, I have 4 years and I'm going to do all of these things, but I ended up doing like a third of what I had thought, because to be honest, like the time and the effort that it takes does not actually allow you to do like as much as anyone would like. So I just went with the flow, and I just took up what I could. And so firstly I started out with Team Roverex, like I mentioned. So it's one of the robotics based teams in our college, and what they were doing I found really interesting. And so I joined the team, and I worked there as a mechanical engineer for a year. And then I went on to become the mechanical lead the following year. And so that is where I learned most of my like concepts in robotics. That was my so before that I was not very I didn't know much about the field. And so that was my introduction to robotics. And since it's a full-fledged robot that you're building, though you're in like a particular department, you do get to learn a lot of things. Like though you may not be able to develop all of it hands-on, but you will know like, you know, what goes into the electronics of a robot and what goes into the software aspects of a robot. So I really liked that aspect of my work because like though I was learning a lot about the mechanical aspects, I also understood like the other aspects of robotics, like electrical and the software and stuff. So yeah, so once I had like a base understanding of robotics and the all the systems, I decided to join an internship over my summer break in like in my second year. Yeah, so I joined a company, a startup called Invento Robotics. So they build like humanoid bots for customer management, and so there I wanted to like, so since like till then I was only working on the mechanical aspects, so I wanted to take that opportunity to also learn a little bit of electronics and CS. So I worked on like the electronic control, um, added to the mechanical designing, prototyping and stuff. So that basically gave me a base of the electronics, though I'm not very comfortable with it yet, but that was like an introduction where I can, you know, understand all the concepts and stuff. So that was another major experience that helped me, you know, get like a better understanding of the field. And then I went to Hack Harvard in 2018 in my third year. So that was actually okay. So that's a very interesting experience because we were building a device for the visually impaired people. And so during that time, we were a team of four, and I was a mechanical engineer. There were two electronics engineers and one software engineer. And that had like, it didn't have much of a mechanical component, but it had a very heavy software component. So because there was only one software engineer, I was sort of like forced into it at first because we had like a lot of it to do. But like in 36 hours, with like no work on software before that, I somehow did manage to do a part that I was assigned. And that really gave me a boost that, you know, like I think it's more to do with where you're, you know, put in a spot and you're like, you just have to do this. So that really like helped with my understanding and with my motivation and my confidence and stuff. And that's where I got a little exposure of the software component of robotics and automation and IoT and stuff. And to further that, I then did my final year project on an autonomous mobile robot that identifies weed, and then I built like a system to extract the weed. Though I couldn't complete it completely due to COVID, but I did do like quite a bit of that. And there again, so that I did it alone, and so that like helped me completely work hands on with each of the components of robotics, like all the departments. And I think that was the major part of, you know, my all my experiences, which gave me like a strong what robotics is, and the kind of concepts that, you know, you need to learn to build a robot and stuff. So majorly, like, so to sum it up, like I ensured like through my 4 years I didn't do a lot of things, like these are the four main things that I did, but I ensured that I touched upon all of the subsystems of a robot. So I had like a holistic understanding. So throughout, like when I was thinking about the projects I have to do or the kind of experiences I had to gain, this was my major focus, that, you know, um, get like hands-on work on each of the components. So I, at the end, like the final goal was to be able to build a bot completely by myself. So later also, when you're working in a team, understanding what like the other subsystems do and stuff like that helps like the integration of the entire robot, which I think is like really important.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's how I built on my profile. Like that was the idea behind the things I did.
I think that is what MRSD is too, you know, it's like they cover a breadth of topics, and then you have like so many subsystems, bring them all together to
Yeah.
make, you know, one big system. So and also like the team aspect is also there. So I think that's pretty amazing. But one question, that comes to a lot of applicants' mind is, like a course like MRST mentions it that they would prefer someone with an experience, 1 to 3 years of experience. So given that, what do you think should one should have in their profile if they are coming straight out of college, to make them stand out in a pool of applications that are all experienced people?
Yeah, so I think so I don't have any work experience and I got the admit straight out of college. And I think what worked for me was that I did have sufficient experience like throughout my college where I could I think not prove in a way, but like I could show that I have like a good understanding of what a robot is. And that was one of the major things, like, well, while I was preparing my profile too, I tried to ensure that, I went out of the way. Like, so the team was not a part of the curriculum. None of these things were a part of the curriculum. So I think why a college would mention work experiences, because like a lot of schools, and this is like at least very true for a lot of Indian institutes, that the curriculum as such, like, because robotics is a very upcoming field, not a lot of curriculums will help you understand what robotics is, and the gain the concepts and the knowledge that you need to be a roboticist. So I think because of that, work experience helps later, because you get to work in a robotics company, and that experience helps you understand the field and gain the knowledge and experience required. But if you're able to manage to do that during your college by taking up extracurricular activities, or taking up internships and stuff elsewhere, that gives you the same experience and knowledge that work experience would, then I think that should be sufficient. Like, that kind of covers up or satisfies the need for work experience.
That's very true, and that, like, I think sums up that answer very nicely. So I think now coming to the next big monster in the room,
Yeah.
is the statement of purpose, the SOP.
Yeah.
And I personally feel that that probably is one of the biggest thing that is there in your whole
Def-
application bundle that makes
yeah.
you stand out. So what all did you have, the key points in your recipe that made you stand out?
Yeah. So while I was writing my SOP, so my first draft was very, very generic. And after I wrote the whole thing, I realized that, anybody who's going to be applying like to MRSD must be very interested in robotics, and everybody will have a strong profile. So more than showing that, this is how much I've done and these are the crazy things I've done and all of these achievements, I think it's more about showing how you bring something unique to the cohort, because it's a given that everybody is going to be very like, everyone's going to be very capable, and everybody is going to be very knowledgeable. So it's more about how you stand out, and how you are unique in the cohort, and the kind of things that you bring to the table. And I think like showing those aspects in your SOP is more important than showing the work that you have done. So that is what I realized after a few drafts in. And so then I like redid the entire SOP, and try to um, try to be very specific about why I'm joining MRSD and what my goals are. Because I think that the goals that somebody has, and that is very specific to you, and the journey that you've been through to get to a part where you're now moving to the next step, which is your graduate study. So the journey and the reason behind the journey and all of these things are points that are very specific to you. So these are important to mention. And so what I did is I mentioned my goal firstly. and in a very specific manner. So it's not just saying I want to be a robotics engineer or something. It's very specific. Like this is what I want to be, and if it's a startup, then this is the sort of startup I want to have. Or if it is doing research, then this is a field of research. So it's also important to show like a very clear vision and a focus. So and it's also important that all of it aligns together. So it shouldn't be that the work you say communicate something else and then your goal is completely different. So it all needs to like bind together and bring out like story, not a story, but like bring out a proper well thought journey. Like you've made decisions, you know what you're doing, you have focus, and you know where you want to be, and your 4 years were preparing you for that, and CMU is going to further prepare you for that, so you can finally reach the goal. So that was the idea behind the SOP. So I started with mentioning my goal and how the work that I've done in my past through 4 years. And by work, it is not just technical projects. And there's so much more that comes into picture, like other extracurricular activities, like teams leading teams, or working with NGOs, or being a part of, say, the dance club or drama club of your college, because they also add like very important aspects to your personality. So mentioning all of the work that you have done to show the different aspects of your personality and how you've developed yourself as a person, like as an all-rounded person, to be more specific. So mentioning all of those experiences and how they have made you who you are. So I focused on that. And so the 4 years were basically all of that put in together, like technical and non-technical, everything put in together, and how they're tying into you achieving the goal, how they were also very well thought out, and how they were in place leading you to that goal. And then further, how CMU fits into this entire journey, and how CMU will benefit you to gain and or to be where you want to be, and the things that how you will be able to contribute to CMU, and the kind of work you want to do there, and the kind of initiatives you would like to introduce there, and how you add value basically. So all of that, and the kind of courses that you want to take, and why MRSG is perfect for you, and why the kind of labs or the kind of research and work you want to do, all of that. And yeah, so these are basically the components in the SOP, but it's important to just make sure everything is very well thought out, and it brings out the like you as a person, and not just like a filled extended CV where you're just saying these are all the things that I've done. So I think that is very important with an SOP.
True, true. I think again, this is again such a nice answer. And personally, like recently, like I got some SOPs to review for MRSD, and I felt very similar things, like that. Like if I am reading your recipe, I need to understand why you did this. Why are
Yeah.
you like this as a person, and whatever you did, why you did that, and how they shaped up the things for you towards your big goal. So I think that's pretty true. So but one thing I want to ask, like when we talk about the technical aspects being mentioned in the SOP, how deep should a person go, when you're talking about the technical aspects?
So I personally like so right now even when I review an SOP, or like I help someone out with that, I have found that if it's too technical, then it's not answering the questions that you want to answer, like you want answers to in an SOP, because then it's just like an extended CV. So
Right.
I think like while describing a project, it's I think just a few lines, like say 2 to 3 lines. So you give like say one paragraph to one particular experience. So I think 2 to 3 lines about the technical details should do, where you encapsulate everything, saying this was the aim and these are the things you did. And that's it. That should just cover up. You don't have to go too much in detail saying, okay, this was a challenge, and these were the problems that were faced, and this is how I overcame. That just becomes like a whole extended, very technically heavy paragraph to read. So
Yeah.
just a few lines that just, sums the whole thing up. And then I would say the rest of it should be more focused on the things you learned through the experience, which is technical and like non-technical. Say, so a lot of people like who I have spoken to about this ask me that, if it's a technical project, then what non-technical things can I mention? So I think things like, perseverance, and uh, things like overcoming challenges and sticking to deadlines, and working with a team, and I think budget management, time management, all of these are, maybe we don't consciously realize, but all of these projects do teach us these aspects which are very important for any project. So I think these are more important to mention as well. So these are usually things that people miss out on, and I think that is a very important detail that people miss out on. So I would suggest that, in addition to the technical details mentioned, the technical skills and non-technical skills you have learned, and what the project has taught you, and also why you did the project. I mean, so say someone is working on, an agricultural robot, like I mentioned, earlier project. So how it is going to benefit the society, because at the end of the day, that's the aim for any robot, right? To make life easy, or to help in the progression of an industry. So how that is going to help, and why you decided to choose that particular project out of anything that you could do. So I think these are important details that people miss out trying to cram a lot of technical things, but these are very important because it helps, like, show it helps the reader understand your thought process, and how you are thinking, and your purpose of what you are doing, which is what the SOP should really focus on, and what people want to understand from an SOP. So I
Right.
think that's what I've understood from the experience.
I mean, that's what it says also, right? Statement of purpose. So the purpose,
Purpose, yeah,
right?
yeah.
Then one last question related to SOP is, how did you get your SOP reviewed? Like, who all did you approach, and like, what was your process for that, for the reviews?
Yeah, so my father helped me throughout with my SOP. So I would note it down, and because, honestly, my first draft was 5 pages long, and because I really did not know what to filter out, and how much to mention, like the previous question you asked. So I just wrote everything, because it's easy to cut out than keep on thinking later. So I just wrote everything I could think of, and my father helped me a lot with reviewing the SOP. And I also did reach out to my seniors who I mentioned, who were a part of MRST. So one of my seniors, I think helped me a lot by reviewing a lot of my SOPs, like a lot of my drafts. And so yeah, it was basically the help of my parents and a couple of seniors who are in MRST and who are my seniors in college. So all of them helped me with the review process, because I think like, not only to focus on MRSD alumni, but also like other people too helps, because um, like different people notice different aspects of the SOP that you would miss out on. So it is nice to get it checked by at least a few people who may not have, like, for example, my parents like don't really have anything to do with MRST, but they know what I'm trying to convey, and what I like, they know all the experiences I have gained.
Yeah.
So getting different perspectives help, I think. So yeah, they are usually who I got everything reviewed by.
That's pretty interesting. So I think now, since we have talked about SOP, the third point in the application, I think, are all the scores and the GP. So,
Yeah.
like, what were your scores, and like, how much role do you think they played in your overall application?
So my CGPA is 9.08, and at the time of application, it was 9.12, I think. And my GRE score is 322, and my IELTS score is 8. So as far as the importance goes, I think it is more of, sort of a cutoff or like a filter than like, a deciding factor. Because like the SOP and CV, these are more indicative of, the skills and the qualities that they are looking for in a student. So I think these are just aspects, and a lot of people, like for example, there are people who are really good with projects and work, but who are not really good with exams. So I don't think like the admissions committees, they base a decision on the scores, but it acts more like a filter to like, maybe like filter out a certain number of applications. But I think the decision is mostly based on your CV and SOP.
True. But I think there are some notions around, like
Yeah.
that few universities are very specific about GPAs. For example, I have heard this about UPenn, for instance, that UPenn is like, very specific when it comes to GPA. So, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so like I said, there are universities, like even what I noticed with UPenn and even UMich actually, um, is that, they are very, and this is even more so in case of European colleges, is what I noticed. Like they have a very strict cutoff, I would say, and most colleges, like all of the top ones, are looking for a 9 plus. And I think in the US, it's a little comparatively a little more relaxed. But yeah, like I did notice it in UPenn and UMich too. And so again, I think that is a filter. So I think when they're checking applications, because of the huge number, they have like a cutoff, and any profile that's below it, they may not review. That could happen, I think. But again, um, I mean, I don't think a lot of universities would be doing that, because I do know friends of mine who have gotten a less than 9 CGPA and have still gotten there because of their profile, like gotten into the top universities because of their profile. So in general, I think 8.5 plus is a good CGPA to have, because maybe if they are considering it as like a cutoff, they might not look at your profile at a CGPA below 8.5. So I think 8.5 above is a safe place to be.
Okay, so now coming to, I think, the last aspect of the application, which is the letters of recommendation. So, who all did you get the recommendations from, and what are your thoughts on it? Like, how much importance do they have in the overall application?
I think letters of recommendation are really important, because it is people vouching for you and saying that, yes, um, I have noticed these things about the candidate, and I can vouch for the fact that they would be a good fit. So I think it's really important, because they are the like your professors and supervisors at work. They are who can say that, yes, I have seen their work, and because the rest of it is documents that you write, right? So this is sort of like a validation, and somebody else who is saying that, yes, I do believe that this person would, do really well given the opportunity. So I think it's really important. And I have seen this, like a lot of people, and even me, to be honest, like when I was applying, even I thought that, you should like try to get like really good recommendations from, like a very how do I say, someone who's like in a very high position, or like, from your HOD or dean or someone like that. But I realized that when I like gave it more thought and I was deciding on my recommendations and stuff, I realized that more than like the position of the person that you're getting a recommendation from, it's more important you get it from someone who can actually say like really personal things about you, who has very closely observed your work, and who who can stand up for what you have done. Because if it's someone who even like obviously in colleges, like, your teachers, even if they're not very, like, if they don't know you very personally, too might agree to, give you an LOR because, they want to help us. But I think approaching people who actually have observed you very closely is more important. And when you read LOR itself, it really shows, it very clearly shows by the things that are written, in the amount of detail that, someone is writing, you can tell how personally that person has interacted with you. So more than this notion of, approaching certain people based on how high their position is in the college, it's more important to get a recommendation from someone who's interacted with you in a very personal level. So keeping that in mind, I got my recommendation from professors I've worked with on these projects. And I got one recommendation from the CEO of the startup where I interned at Inventor Robotics.
Okay.
So
Yeah, that's I think the very rightly said all the points. So yeah, okay. Then I think that also brings us to the end. We have covered all the major, points that are there in an application. Also, just one last thing I would like to ask you, because you, as part of your, as your venture, you interact with a lot of people. Are there some specific do's and don'ts that you have observed when it comes to the application process that you would like to tell all the students out there?
yeah, so I think the most important ones would be with test preparation and with respect to the application documents, specifically the CV and SOP. So with test prep, I think it's very overwhelming for a lot of people because of the like, because of the amount of resources. You don't know really how to prepare because there is just so much to do. So I would say for test preparation, it's math is fairly simple, so it's just about practice. And with respect to English, it's more about vocabulary than and the rest of it is all practice. So these are the two aspects. So mainly it if for any test prep, practice both like English and math is really important. And vocabulary is something that takes time um, to like catch up on. So I think that is something. And okay, so yeah, I also want to mention that I've heard a lot of people start out right from the third year. I get like people messaging me saying, hey, I'm in my third year and I'm going to start preparing now. And they give 6 to 8 months to just prepare for the examinations, which is not at all necessary, I think. So it's more about like just doing it the right way rather than trying to just cram a lot of preparation in. So it's like, don't work too hard, but like work smart, like especially when it comes to GRE. I've noticed that that's what works. So I would say a few months of prep is more than enough, but just do it regularly and practice both like English and math every day. And vocabulary, try to do about, I think, 10 to 20 words a day. And just keep practicing and revising all the words regularly. So it's just practice and like just stay in regular touch with your prep and you should be good to go. And so that's for test prep. And yeah, so while selecting colleges, again, a lot of people are, the whole categorization, which honestly didn't work for me. So I don't suggest it to anybody. It is just try to find what interests you and whether it aligns with what you want to do, and just decide based on that. And not even ranking, to be honest. Like, of course, ranking is important, but I don't think it should take priority over this aspect of finding what interests you. So I would say, just most importantly, look into the curriculum, the work, the labs, the opportunities, and how well they align with what your aims are. And yeah, I think that's how school selection should happen. And with respect to applications, I mean the application documents, so the CV has to be very crisp and concise. Like nobody wants to read like 2 to 3 pages. Like I have seen people write 3 to 4 pages of a CV. Like though some colleges don't have a bar, I would still say it's not a very advisable thing to do because like we've only done undergrad. Like we still have so much more to study and so many experiences that we're yet to gain. So especially for considering that we're straight out of college, I would say like keep it as short and concise as possible, because of the number of applications. Nobody's going to read like pages of a document which just says, okay, I've done this and this and this. So yeah, a nice crisp CV which just covers the relevant projects, and don't try to cram in like everything that you have done. Like very smartly select the ones that you meticulously go through a selection process where you pick out the aspects of your profile you want to mention and mention just those in the CV. And for SOP, more than focusing on all the technical work you've done, I would recommend like also equally giving importance to um, showing your thought process and your personality, and showing in your purpose, like Gauri too pointed out. So yeah, these are the tips or few points that I would like ask any applicant to just keep in mind.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I think that also sums up or like summarizes everything we discussed.
Conversation. Yeah.
So, and then I think, yeah, that as I said, we are at the end of this conversation. And there's just one final thing that I do with all the guests, which is this section called Gyan Ki Baat, or
Okay.
your words of knowledge or words of wisdom. So,
Oh.
what would be your like words of wisdom?
I would say whatever you decide, just decide based on whether it interests you or not. And that should be like the only deciding factor, I think, while making any decision. So whether it's work or whether it's deciding universities or whatever, just do it because it interests you and no other reason.
Yeah, do what your heart says, basically.
Yeah, basically do what your heart says.
Right, that's so true. Okay, thank you so much, Shruti, again for doing this. It was so lovely talking to you, and yeah, I hope this conversation would be very helpful, especially now because the deadlines are approaching.
Right.
So people should find it really helpful. And yeah, thanks again. And
Thank you for having me, Gauri. It was really nice talking to you. And I do hope that people who are watching this do get benefited by the conversation. And yeah, guys, for all of you listening, please do subscribe to Gyan Sabha.